Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Culture of Paint. In tonight's show, we'll be taking a look at what's caught our eye over the last couple of weeks in the miniatures painting world. The main segment, we're going to have a little chat around the things that we felt have made us better painters or enjoy our painting more. And then we'll close out, as usual, taking a look at what the hashtag paint cultists have been up to. As long as, all of the chat as well, we'll see what the questions are going on in there. Hopefully be a good fun tonight. Culture of Paint is aimed at a mature audience, and we might use explicit language and discuss adult themes. Let's talk about paint. And we're back. Right, let's see if everybody's in the chat first. Has it crashed? No, it hasn't crashed yet. Thanks for that, Hunter.
No crashing.
Lots of confidence in us there. We've got people enjoying your hammer, Rich. We were just having a chat about that off camera. Apparently, go on. Tell everyone what it is then, Rich.
I have a thing for weaponry, and I made myself a warhammer out of an old mining pick.
Love it.
Because I'm really normal.
I have a thing for weaponry.
You should see his weapon shed. It's mental. Dexter, basically. Yeah.
Wiltshire, West Country Dexter. Love it. Yeah. Well, anyway, enough of that. Good evening, everyone. I'm Henry, and joining me as normal are Andy, Rich, and Matt, and the chat. So as usual, we're going out live to the Patreon chat, and then out to everybody else at the weekend. But it's nice to see you all in there. Let's get started. It feels like it's been longer than 2 weeks since the last one.
Was it?
Which is nice. Sort of look forward to it. It's probably because
it's actually shorter, but it is longer because we did it on a Wednesday.
Episode 9, nearly there. Double figures. Sort of double figures already. If you think about the pilot show, you never know. We reckon there's definitely an episode in Rich's weapons shed. Yeah, maybe we can
get us demonetized.
Be with people.
This is my favourite.
We'll do a little through the keyhole with whose weapons shed is this? Right, let's crack on with what we've seen over the last few weeks. Let's call our eye.
So
first
up.
Ooh, very nice. That's wicked.
So I'm going to be honest, been a bit busy, so I struggled to find something this week, and I did actually pick something and send it over that I wanted for my pick, but it was something that we've kind of seen before, and I saw this and I instantly changed it because it's so different. It's if you look at the bottom picture there, you can see the guy's hand next to it, so it's fucking tiny. But it's brilliant. It's by a guy who handles Joe Skynet, whose real name is Joseph Fernandez, and I'm pretty sure it's scratch built. So I think that maybe there's a kit or two in there that he's used, but it instantly caught my eye, and I was staring at it for a long time. It took me quite a long time to realize how small it was. So yeah, it's something that I've not seen anything particularly really different for a little bit. Really caught my eye for that, so that's why it's my pick for the week.
It's really cool, isn't it? It's a bit like that. Remember when Roman Lepat did those little astronauts, didn't he, last year?
Yeah.
And we saw tons of these cool, teeny tiny dioramas. Yeah. It's quite a fun way of doing a first diorama, right? It takes the pressure off a bit.
Well, then you can do it this big, right? Because this would be enormous if it was 28. So if you want to get some big scene in, then it's your opportunity. I like the cast shadows from the top left picture best.
They're really cool, aren't they? And he's done them off everything, right? All of the rocks, all of the.
It's legit.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'll check him out. And as usual, guys, I'll put all the links to all the people we chat about in the description, so you can go check them out.
Right, next up.
This one's mine.
Yes.
You'll have heard us mention, I think, the Turnip 28. This is a game and a setting that's been developed by a chap called Max Fitzgerald, who we work with on the concept art for both our miniatures ranges. But I wanted to bring this up just because I know we chat about 3D printing, particularly me and Matt, and it's just very cool to see someone in the community's gone, oh, this is awesome, Max, what you're doing, why don't I create some sculpts? And there's that talent out there now to be creating these things, and then you can go out and get print these upgrade kits, and I'm sure someone will probably license it and print them for you if you don't have a printer. But the idea behind it is that it's this sort of weird sort of Napoleonics era kind of setting. So the miniatures were always kit bashes, using things like Perry miniatures, a couple of different Perry miniatures kits and Victrix and stuff like that. But they basically made this just straightforward torsos upgrades through now to plonk on your Perry models, and you're good to go, kind of thing. I'm really keen to, like, the aesthetic is wonderful, the paint style's brilliant, and it's silly. You know, it's got that Brian Froud kind of vibe. You know, it really is everything I like about hobbying. I need to find a time slot to do a bit of it. And particularly I've been doing those corrosion videos recently on YouTube, and like this stuff's perfect for just having a lot of fun with everything being over the top. Like all the weathering's over the top. Everything's too muddy. It's too rusty. It's too grimy. So yeah, if I haven't done anything with this in, say, the next 2 months, someone needs to nudge me, because I really, really want to do it. You've probably got some of them hung up in your weapons shed, I'm guessing, Rich, little helmets like that, have you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd like to. They're great. I remember seeing the concept art for this and thinking, that's actually really cool. And now the fact that they are sort of moving on to being produced is awesome. I'd love to get my hands on a few of these and try some stuff. It's very Labyrinth-esque. Yeah. High fantasy, but dark and funny almost at the same time.
Characters, massive.
Yeah.
I'll make sure I stick the link to Max's Patreon, which is sort of where you can get all of the, I don't know, stuff, I guess, to do with
free as well, isn't it? Free Patreon.
So it's very, very cool. It's definitely worth checking out. So what's up next? Oh, nice.
Wow. No way.
How'd you like them apples?
Fuck me.
I sent this to Matt because I was like, got to surprise the boys with my pick this week.
This can't just be another purple elf.
I've got a purple elf.
I was shocked.
Awesome. You were shocked. Hey, I paint tanks, boys. Let's not remember.
What scale is it?
Who knows, but it's cool.
I'm gonna get
I really want to paint a tank at the moment, and this is what I want it to look like. So, but they've stopped producing the Macarius, so I'm sad.
Yeah, what do you reckon, Rich? That's a biggie, isn't it?
172, maybe? No, 135.
35.
Could be 135.
Well, imagine building all them individual track links. Delicious.
Good though, isn't it?
Get stuck into that. Yeah, it's very, very cool. I love the front.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Nice weathering.
Superb, isn't it? Yeah, very, very nice.
Very cool.
It's just layer upon layer upon layer of stuff, isn't it? To get those nice effects.
You could put like a proper background, like a photoreal background on that, and it will look very realistic.
Well, it says, like, if we can't decide what scale it is, that could be fucking real. It could be 1/6.
Yeah.
You know, it could be 1/6, it could be 172, who knows?
Yeah, I occasionally get on various social media, I get pop-ups of, I don't know who the guy is, but he does like scale dioramas of like normal things. So like a block corner of an American street kind of thing, or a railway station and stuff, and you sort of see the photos initially, and you assume it's a photo of a real place, and then it sort of shows you him making it up. It's very, very cool. I mean, I get that obviously film guys have done that forever, right? But I always separate for some reason that to sort of miniatures hobbying, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just the amount of patience you sort of need to be able to create those scenes. It's pretty amazing. There's probably loads of them in that book you've got, Rich, the AK book, which obviously we've been waiting to borrow now for 3 years.
Maybe.
What's up next, Matt? Tasty.
It's me again. I double picked because I had to have something with some purple in, and just to counterbalance. But yeah, I think this is epic, and conversion's awesome, and haven't seen many people convert this mini. The best bit's the shield actually on the other side, so definitely worth checking out. Checking out the Instagram handle that's on the screen, and the shield's been smoothed and got some super good NMM on it. But I thought it was one of the best versions of this mini we've seen. Very cool. What do you reckon?
It's a nice model, isn't it? Was he one of those first of the character models that we started to get, which were almost like a little diorama, sort of in and of themselves? Like, there's quite a few I can think of now. There's that Sisters of Battle one, the big lad on his
Fat Boy
Slanesh bloke, on Slanesh. There's sort of going more and more for that diorama. But you're right, I've not seen many people actually take him and turn him into a
intimidating.
Do a bit of work on him. It's a really nice model. Well, I really like it anyway.
I think it's cool. But you're right, though. Not a lot of people have tackled him either in changing him or not even really paying him to like a really high standard. Not that I can think of.
The influencers got him early, didn't they? And then not many since, really. I think Johan Ludik did one. He's awesome. He did one recently. So
it's a pretty intimidating set of models, though, isn't it? Like, I mean, he's a good game-wise. He's a fair whack of your army.
Do you think so?
Well, yeah, because it's not just one mini,
dude,
and he's pretty big anyway, right? And he's not like the whole thing with the Ossiarch Bone Reaper range is it's not just skeletons. You're not just painting skellybobs and their weapons and stuff. You know, the way they're all molded out of bone, but they've got different shapes and to how you'd sort of picture a normal skeleton. And I certainly, I think they could be quite intimidating. And because he's got about 4 or 5 little lads helping him, hasn't he?
Yeah.
On his space as well. And each of those are really nice little character models as well. I think I definitely would feel a lot of pressure painting it.
I thought it'd be easier because there's no skin, you see. So like Alariel is cloth and loads of skin, and I think bone has got so much more freedom. It's kind of like armor. So I thought it'd be kind of easier than some of the other ones.
Well, I mean, that's potentially an interesting thing that we'll talk about in a little bit anyway, right? But those bits of what some people find more challenging or not. But you know what I mean? Like, I know what you're saying about skin being easier or more challenging, perhaps, than bone. But I think that's the thing with it, is it's not just bone with these guys, is it? It's bone in all these weird. Yeah, it is more like armor, right? It's a lot more like armor, but it still needs to look like bone.
And you have to do more with it, right? Like, you can't just do a normal skelly bob. You got to make this bone look really good. How do I make bone look better than?
I really like the scheme of theirs, which has the really dark bone. I think they painted it on that Underworld's character.
I was just thinking about him today.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Is he out yet?
I think he's. Yes, I think he was up in the pre-orders for however on earth it works now. They announced the pre-orders a week earlier than you can pre-order the things, which obviously is a week earlier than you can.
So it's this weekend coming.
Get the things, yeah. So a few weeks, I guess you can pick him up. But he's a big old unit as well, isn't he?
I would like him, and I think you would like him as well, Steeler.
Yeah. But I don't think we're alone there somehow. I think he's been one of those models that even people who perhaps aren't that mad on that range think is pretty cool. But then, you know, he's got one of the best poses, right? Looking moody with a big old axe in front of you. It's a classic. Second only to standing on a rock and pointing, isn't it? You know, when it comes to being a hero.
Yeah.
Don't know how else you would stand if you're a hero. I've got no idea.
Got to be seen.
Yeah. They always find the rock. They find the rock every battlefield. The hero makes absolutely sure he stood and found the nearest rock before he.
Sniper's dream, isn't it? But then, having said that, of course, back to this model, he's got a very arrogant pose, hasn't he? He's very sort of Roman Greek sort of god, like, you know, kind of vibe going on. Cool. It's nice to see him a bit more animated.
It is. He looks confident.
Yeah, man. It's one of those kits that I regret not getting, and I still think about
having
not got it. Like, it's Yeah.
You can have mine.
We'll see. I've got skeletons on the brain at the moment.
I've got everything on the brain.
I've been blown away, mate. Absolutely blown away with that G-Dub release recently, the Undead one. I just think it's brilliant. Never really tickled my pickle before the old skeletons that much, but they're big fan. Right, what's up next, Matt? So this is something I wanted to chat to you chats about. I haven't really told you much about it, but obviously a couple of weeks ago now we had the big Games Workshop Warhammer Fest online reveal week, and at the end of it they revealed the new edition of their fantasy game Age of Sigmar's coming out, and they showed us a few of the sort of protagonists, the supposed good guys from that upcoming release, the Stormcast. And I just wanted to have a little talk around, not necessarily just how good the models are, because I think they're absolutely belting, but quite how different the look of them is to the Stormcast that we're used to. And I know Age of Sigmar is not a new game anymore. I think it still feels very new because obviously its predecessor was 30 odd years old. But I think there's a pretty significant change in look for them now.
Yeah.
And I just sort of firstly wondered if you liked it, but also wondered about it because, you know, when we saw the Primaris Marines come out, I think a lot of people objectively can say that many of them are really fantastic looking models, but there's no getting away from the fact that they impact on the older Marine models. You know, the proportions particularly, I think, are highlighted. And, you know, is this a case of the technology is moving so rapidly that they're able to create what they wanted to create in the first place? Is it, you know, a change in art direction? Is it, you know, what are your thoughts on it? Because there's no getting away either that they're getting bigger as well. And considering these ones we've seen so far seemed to have slightly more open poses, they're going to be bigger again, which is great to paint. You know, it's a lot easier to paint, but I think it's to see such a change in a relatively short span of time, I thought was quite interesting. So yeah, hit me. What do you think?
I did not like Stormcast before, and now I do. So that's a summary for me. I think it's great because sometimes proportions in Warhammer takes you a bit, like for me, it takes me out of the escapism because they're just a bit toyish. And like, you know, when the legs are squat and they're stumpy and wide, I'm like, oh, these look a bit goofy. But Primaris with their tall legs, I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then these are, I think it's how much more slender. Like this model I don't love, but the normal, whatever it's called, normal model, I was just like, wow, that's brilliant. And I don't think I'd do an army, but I definitely wasn't a fan before, and I am after seeing that. And I actually can't wait to teach classes on them because we always we teach on Primaris because they're great to teach on because they're open, they've got clean shapes. And then this has been the only other model where I'd really love to teach classes on, and they look better for beginners too. So it's better for bringing those barriers to entry down for new painters because you've got rid of the cloth basically. Just
Have we got another slide, Matt?
We do, yeah.
The Stormies, yeah. Bring.
That lad on the right. That's what I'm talking about. That's cool. That's just way cooler.
It's really different.
The proportions
it's
are
really
just out
different, man. Like it's that now is proper, you know, Greek / Roman / oh my goodness, completely gone from my mind. Anyway, ancient Greek that era.
To me. It just feels way cooler and a stronger identity. I think you can't.
That's it. That's what I was trying to inelegantly say. They really. I feel like I get it now. I also feel like they're a touch more, a bit more old Warhammer feeling, a bit more dark fantasy. Like when the Stormcast came out, I felt like
scarier.
It was a real change from anything we'd seen before, and I feel like they were almost meant to be like good Chaos Warriors, right? Big armored dudes and all the rest of it, but supposedly the good guys. But it was such a huge departure from everything we'd seen before, and the art direction changed and all that. And I'm a big fan of the art in Age of Sigmar. I think it's absolutely amazing. Some of the fantasy art that they've done. But this, I think we first saw it with the artwork from the last edition of the game, where we had that female Stormcast on the front cover.
I love that.
The sort of hipster haircut. But it just looked a bit moodier, a bit grittier, a bit like, this is less toyish. Yeah, like you said, a little less toyish. And these just take it a step further, right?
Agree. I mean, it also separates them from Space Marines more in a way, because it was when they first came out, it was almost like, okay, Space Marines are successful. They're almost trying to do a Space Marine for fantasy and inaccessible. And now they feel like they're not that. These really are a proper fantasy, old, like proper toy soldier. It's like he looks like a soldier now, not a silly character or whatever. I just I think it's a massive upgrade, and also Spear and Shield is cooler than just
it's cool, right? But even the bloke on the left, I mean, he is preposterous, right? But to me, it's like, if you're a fan of Marvel or something like that, League of Legends or those kinds of things, you're going to see that mini and you'll probably think it's quite cool, because that aesthetic is not completely alien to you, right? But I also feel like he's got enough of the Warhammer look to him to, like, I'm keen to paint them, like, and I tried a lot of times, and Andy will know this, I tried loads of different schemes for Stormcast, but I could never, there was so many nice pieces of artwork for them, and the idea of being able to play with the coloured armour and do all of this, there was so much potential there, but I could never really make the model look like I wanted it to. And I wonder if an element of that, I suppose we'll talk about this later as well, but I do wonder if an element of that now wasn't my inability to translate it, but actually whether the disconnect between the model and the artwork was greater.
It's huge. I loved them in the art, didn't love them in the figures, and the Spearman is just better, because you look at the art and obviously they do them with correct proportions in the art, and then you get the figure and they're not. But then I can't really criticize the proportions on that Spearman. The legs are the right length. They don't have a foot wide
gooch.
Like, it's just I've only got positive things to say, and I like that it's quick, because like you said, they've changed it relatively rapidly, and that's cool, because that just shows GW are like, hey, we've got a better idea, let's put it out. Which makes it more exciting, because what could they do to any other race in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? I don't like things to be stagnant. A lot of people are like, I don't like change, but I get bored quick and I want to see new models and new stuff. I don't want to paint the same dryads from 20 years ago, which I did do and regretted, and I said never again.
If you get that nice little owl, don't you, in the dryad box?
Oh, that's all right.
For me on this, the takeaway for me is, one, like, they do look great and they do look a lot better, but I always struggle with them Stormcast, similar to you, Steelo, in that I really, really liked them and I like the theory behind them. But they never really, the miniatures never really cut it, and I tried various different schemes for something, for different armies that I wanted to do, and it never was quite what I wanted it to be. And like, other than the proportions, I think one of the other big things is there's the shot of like the squads, there's like 5 of them, and they've all actually got like faces and they're actually people now. So that for me, when they were all basically like automatons who could just respawn 50 times in one battle and it didn't mean anything, for me it took something away from them a bit. They became like Necron. So Necron warriors are cool, but they're just an army of faceless. Yeah, exactly. But that, for me, felt a little bit like this. But now that they've come back and said, well, these guys, they can't respawn all the time, and they all have like faces. Like the first Stormcast kit, you didn't get any faces. There wasn't any. So I really like the way, the direction that they've gone with it. I think, like you said, the proportions I think are really good. It looks a lot darker, a lot more realistic. And overall, I think it's a really interesting step. And I think it's really interesting, like you said, to see that GW are taking that step in quite a short time period, that they've recognized that maybe they weren't exactly what people want, not what people wanted, but what they could have been. And they're actually going, actually, no, let's spend time in it. Yeah. Right. The only thing I will say is, knowing that they've already said that they're not redoing everything. So these are going to be fully viable with the regular Stormcast. And in the same way that the regular Marines next to Primaris Marines, you put a regular Marine next to Primaris Marine, I'm sorry, it just looks silly.
You can do it, but you wouldn't want to.
No, I do think now that when, like, I would love to see one of these next to just your regular Stormcast dude, and just to see.
Well, I did. I was like, wow. Like,
yeah, I want to see that, because that for me is going to be just really interesting to see what they do with it. Will they redo parts of the Stormcast range, or will they just completely focus on this now, and they'll go that way with everything that comes out being this correct proportion, like they did with the Marines?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think given the last 3 years of rreleases, I think you can safely say nothing is getting replaced, is it? It's just this is the new and more. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. The chat saying that his hammer is better than yours, Rich. But then you only had an old pickaxe to make it out of, not like heavenly metal.
He's got plenty more hammers in other sheds.
I'll try and bring a better one for next week.
All right, good lad.
Can I also just point out, and I've not noticed it until 10 seconds ago, how good is the base on the Spearman? Because that's obviously molded plastic.
Proper base, yeah.
Did you notice that before?
It's just
it's amazing.
That Spearman is it's hard to describe, like whether you like them or not, and Age of Sigmar, blah 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 blah. Looking at it purely objectively, if that is the basic trooper, for that army, right? You take anybody, right, who knows nothing about this game, nothing about this setting, anything like that, right, and you show them that, it's cool. It's clearly a hero, right? He's heroic. He's got this wonderful pose. You look at the base, you go, okay, so he's obviously some kind of fantasy dude. Because, a tiny bit of tweaking, and he could be some steampunk soldier if you needed it. But it's enough there, and I just think I'm quite excited to see what they do with it, because it's I always felt like it was a really interesting idea for an army.
Yeah.
As in not to game with, but from to add into the setting. I think it's pretty exciting to see what's going to happen with it. And apparently it's all set in a swamp, which I'm all over. Right, if things get swampier and dingier, I'm fully behind that.
You got the skeleton ready.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what like the cavalry option for this will be, or if there's any like I love the angel, the first image that we showed. I love that model. I think it's amazing. I think she's great.
Real wings.
Yeah, exactly. Real wings. I think it's amazing.
Suppose I don't know. There maybe are.
Yeah.
I think they're plastic.
Yeah, just dead pigeon wings at each set. But I think she's great. I mean, for me also, it's a massive throwback to I love Magic the Gathering, as I'm sure you all know. And she reminds me massively of my favorite card that we ever had. And I think I can see myself. It was a Chroma Angel of Wrath.
Yeah, don't leave us hanging.
And she looks exactly like her, basically. So I saw that, I was like, oh my god, that's perfect. So yeah, I can see myself adding this to the pile 100%. In fact, probably all of it, because I've liked all three so far.
Yeah. And there the other ones from the unit really did it for me. There was one that
great.
White,
they showed them in the different colours, didn't they?
Give me that. So it's just cool. I don't think I'd ever do an army, but I'm really pleased to see these. And like I said, I'd love to teach classes and do YouTube videos on these. Like, I'm pretty pumped for using them for that. I think it's fabulous.
It's also quite cool to see the diversity. Like the first Stormcast, it was all the whole army was just dudes.
Yeah, definitely.
It looks like it's pretty much 50-50.
That's something certainly they're getting a lot more what's the word?
She got healed.
It's every kit now, nearly, which is great to see. It's not a specific thing anymore, which is great, which is what we want. The more variety we've got, the better in it. I'm really with it. I didn't want to so much go into, do you like the models, tons, and all the rest of it. It was what I was really interested in was sort of what we talked about, that the significance of the change. This isn't just putting some robes on them like they did for the second edition. This is a big departure. So looking forward to seeing what's coming out for them, as I'm sure.
Maybe that's an Underworld warband.
Psych, it's just a warband, right?
Yeah. Psych.
Yeah. Nice. Right. Shall we crack on, Matt? Have we got any? Oh, we do have a meme. Do we? We've got meme of the week. What we got?
You did it, Stilo. It's your meme.
It's your pick.
What?
It is your pick.
I've now got to see it. What's going on? Oh, this wasn't even meant as a podcast meme. This was just this. So there's a site on Facebook called Classical Art Memes. I'm a big fan. I'm not a big fan of Facebook, but I'm a big fan of classical art memes. And this was perfection, really.
It is absolutely. I couldn't love it more. It speaks to me on so many levels.
Yeah. We have this conversation weekly. So, Anyway, keep putting out all that great free content, YouTubers. I love it. Let's crack on with the main segment. So, if you listened to the last show, guys, we did a big Q&A from the Patreon. Some fantastic questions in there, and we certainly didn't have time to go through all of them. There was a small group of questions within it that were all on a similar theme to do with improving as painting, and not so much sort of wanting us to tell people, or you need to do this, you need to do this, but also looking at how we have improved as painters, or are enjoying our painting more, because we're all, I would say, pretty experienced now, certainly from a time frame point of view. But I thought it might be quite an interesting chat, particularly because we have, I think, quite a broad selection of hobbyists just within the four of us. We've got Andy, yourself, who's very, very driven with the competitive side of it. We've got Rich, who can't paint more than one model for an army because there's too many cool things. And then me and Matt will just sit in the middle. So I just wanted to have a sort of a chat around some of those questions and what we thought. So first question up, let me get them up in front of me. This was more of a personal one. So this was Andrew's asking this. On the theme of continued development and improvement. So this is looking at people who have been into painting for a little while. What techniques are we all working on improving at the moment, and what is our motivation for doing that? So I'll come to you first, Andy, with that one.
What am I improving on?
Well, you've just been doing your 2D artwork, right?
I would say spending more time, which sounds really obvious, but there's lots of little techniques I want to work on with light, skin, NMM, but actually what I really want to do overall is spend more time per model, because back in the day when I was learning more, always learning obviously, but I was learning more, I would spend like 3 or 4 months on one model and like really take my time to sort of learn and work harder. And now I kind of not rush, but I am faster and I put stuff out faster, but I need to go back to that old me and spend more time per model, because you just get the better results. Like I think I spent 8 months on Magnus. I took a 3-4 month break, but then I did the line in about 3 or 4 weeks. It's just that really. I guess I don't have the luxury of spending that time, because no one will stay on the Patreon if it's one model for 8 months. But I'd certainly like to have side projects that I spend a lot longer on. And you look at some of the most successful technical painters, which I would say David Soper and Albert Moretto Font. Those two I really admire because they go, I'm going to paint this model this year.
Yeah.
And if it takes more than a year, I'll spend another 6 months on it. And they paint technically the best, I'd say. Like, they're just so clean, undeniably. And I'd love to do that every now and again. I like to mix it up. But anyway, back to the point. I'm working on being slower whilst also making sure people stay on our Patreon. That's what I'd like to do.
Well, that's a good answer. And I wanted to point out as well that when it comes to new techniques, you've just done that fantastic backdrop for the Heergaard model for Patreon and whatnot. But that is a new technique for you, right? You've obviously produced some really nice freehand work over the years. I think you're fairly confident with your freehand work on a model, but this was very much a new departure, wasn't it? And what was, I mean, I know the answer to this obviously, but what is your motivation for learning that new technique?
I think like the other thing I was going to say instead of time, when I very quickly word the options in that 10 seconds, was just presentation overall, I think. And like one thing I worked really hard on this entire year was better bases. Because miniatures are just there to look cool, right? And the overall presentation is part of that. Everything down to how nice is the plinth, how nice is the base, how clean is everything. Like, have you done all the little things? And not in an obsessive way, but we do miniatures to be happy with them. And if I don't do all those little things, and I don't get the satisfaction, so I think the drive is what can I do to better present these pieces? And that's okay. Let's learn to do better water effects. Let's learn to do two-dimensional backdrops, because that's another presentation thing you can have in your arsenal. So definitely spending more time, better presentation, and some of the techniques have come from that have been 2D backdrops, like you said, which has been on my bucket list for ages, 3 years, and I haven't got round to it. And now I've broken the seal. I've got about 5 backdrop plimps from Tarot. So that's all you're getting now. Sorry, people.
Coming soon. No, that's good, mate. Thanks for that. Matt, what about yourself? So whilst you're not, trying to rebuild the internet after we set it on fire last week.
Yeah, let's not do that again.
What's well done, everyone. How about you? Because it's not. I've definitely noticed you've been sort of ticking away on some hobby recently.
Yeah, it's not so much like a technique or like a practical thing. It's more of like a mental thing. Like, I'm trying to stop my self-comparison to everyone that's better than me. It's
great point.
It's very difficult, and I find myself, I'll pick up a model, and like I did a bust recently, and I made the mistake of going on some of the best bust painters Instagram accounts and going, it doesn't look as good, just can't do it. And it kind of made me stop for a week or two, but then I kind of just tried to push through and just make it the best that I could paint it, and tried to sort of push that. So that's kind of what I've been trying to work on, is just stop trying to compare myself to people that are masters.
But as you say, still comparing your work to yourself, right? So you're still working with this idea of, for you to enjoy your hobby more, you want to be improving with each model. Yeah. Is that fair?
Yeah.
I know that's a big driver for you, Andy, isn't it? That the constantly wanting to improve on the very next sort of project, right?
Yeah, I think Matt's point's really awesome, because it's something I sort of talk to people all the time in the coaching. And I think you should strive to improve, because you'll get a kick out of that. But just never compare, because I think you should look at other busts. Like Matt, you could go, why doesn't this look right? And look at those best busts and go, oh, it's because I haven't highlighted this area in a particular way or whatever. But never get demotivated because you've always got to think, how many years has this guy spent more than me? How much time does this guy spend per week now? Because I only paint 2 hours a week because I've got a family. There's all these things, and just don't get annoyed by it. And if as long as you're improving yourself, I think that's what hobbying should be about. It's the experience I went through with the backdrop, because I looked at it and I knew it wasn't an amazing 2D picture, but I imagined it coming out pretty crap, and it came out okay. And I was like, that's cool. It could be a million times better. It's a pretty low level, but it's all right. I've done something new and I got better, and I think that's what you should do, Matt, as well, really, isn't it? And we all go through those phases, but you just can't compare.
Well, what you two have both said there, you both gone, I want to improve. You know, I want to focus on improvement and carry on. There was a discussion in my gaming club, a thread a few weeks ago, which got quite heated, and it was to do with this idea of, do I really need to improve all the time? Is that what matters? Is that what's important about painting? And this it just made me think. So I thought that's why I felt it was interesting, is actually to enjoy my painting more, or your painting more, or whatever. Is it always simply a case of improving? Because I certainly, I'm struggling a little bit at the moment with my personal hobby, in the sense of I'm actually enjoying painting quite a lot at the moment when I'm doing the physical act of putting paint on the miniatures, whether I'm researching a scheme or reference photos and things like that. But as I have done with nearly every model I painted, I get to the end of it and I hate it. I think it's awful, and I'm almost demotivated when I finished it. I've enjoyed the process an awful lot more than I've enjoyed the end result. The only project really I can think of that isn't like that is the Titans I've done, which from a process point of view I didn't particularly enjoy at all. They weren't particularly challenging in the sense of techniques. I picked one area I really wanted to focus on, which was trying to get the weathering in scale to the scale of the miniatures. But I actually really like seeing them done on the shelf, and they bring quite a lot of joy. But I've enjoyed that, not by not improving at all. I've not stagnated at all, but there was no real conscious effort to improve during painting them. But perhaps there is always a nugget of things you're improving, and perhaps it's just semantics, right? What
you achieved, right? You maybe didn't improve technique, but you achieved or progressed, like you got something done. So maybe you do a unit in the exact same way, but you've still got a little hobby buzz. So maybe me and Matt were talking specifically about our technique got better, but then that's the same as progress, right? You just have to move forward in some way, whether it's technical ability, getting more of your army, doing something of the same that looks on your shelf. But I think you just have to have hobby progression in some manner. And it's those things that you get the little buzz in your brain that makes you go, I want to do hobby again. And if you don't get those every now and again, you don't want to continue hobbying, because that's, I think, what happens. I think me and Rich talk about this a lot, but I think if you don't get hobby momentum, you lose it, and you don't want to do it anymore. But like if Matt does a bust a bit better, if you do some more Titans, if Rich gets some more of his Blood Angels done, if you get any kind of hobby progress, then that's what moves you on to the next bit. I think super important. And relating to your point, Henry, with Matt's, I think you got to have realistic expectations. And I think that's what you were saying about, I don't like how this model looks, it looks crap. And Matt's like, I'm not as good as this guy. That's realistic expectations of what he can do, I think. And I've been thinking a lot recently of, there's only so good a model can be. Like if you paint skin, even the best people in the world, it still doesn't look like real skin. I mean, there's those crazy guys that actually it does, but let's forget about that. Us lot. So yeah, just it's all psychological. It's like everything in life. It's in your head, and you just have to try and enjoy it. And if you're not enjoying it, try and relax about certain things. So
yeah. I just felt it was it's certainly like since that conversation happened, I've had people ask me, met people as the world is opening up a bit more again, and my neighbours ask me, what is it you do, for a living and all the rest of it, and people will ask us online and stuff. And actually, I'm changing how I'm wording it now in the sense of I think I'll I'm speaking specifically here with myself and Andy with Cult of Paint and our classes, is understanding that actually a lot of it is helping people enjoy their painting more. It's not always a case of teaching someone and to paint better, right? There's one of the most rewarding things about the actual face-to-face teaching, whether it's online or in person, is adjusting the teaching style to the person learning, right? And figuring out what it is that gets them going and what they want to get from it. But it's a bit of a tangent, sorry. But what techniques am I working on at the moment? I think I need to get better separation or definition into my miniatures. I think that's one of my issues. I paint it like this under the light, and I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. And I finish it all, and I put it down, and it all just blurs into one sort of vaguely desaturated hot mess. What about you, Rich? How are you feeling?
I've been working on a couple of things lately. Non-metallics is a big one, just because I would not do them before, but that was just pig ignorance rather than anything else, because I refused to learn how to do something that was a relatively new technique because I couldn't be asked, because it was difficult, not because I didn't want to do it. But for me, I'd got to the stage where I was very happy with the level of painting that I'd done, and then I finally got to the stage where I didn't hate everything I painted, and then everything I did that was non-metallic I thought was shite. And that feeling of them maybe go, actually, not doing non-metallics anymore, bollocks to it. I'll just do metallics. Yeah. So yeah, that's a big one for me. It's just practicing it. And also with everything else, I'd been all right with not perfect, but finished. I'd been pretty good at going, okay, this isn't exactly what I wanted, but I'll finish it. And it'll be a good reference for me going forward. But with non-metallics, I never finished anything. I got halfway through it and I binned it because I hated it. So finishing non-metallics, and I think the other thing is I just tried too hard. I would go, right, I'm going to paint something non-metallic. So I paint an entire Stormcast head to toe non-metallic. I said, well, hold on a minute. Maybe do some non-metallic trim or some non-metallic bits or weapons or whatever. Then maybe have a look at doing a full non-metallic model. So that's one thing. And then one of the things I've actively been doing, which has been like a much more ongoing, longer thing, is with my brush strokes is loosening them up a bit and going for chunkier, thicker, not necessarily thicker, but just I really enjoy sort of how rough some paint jobs can be when they're done properly. And it's kind of going full circle, because when I first started, I did paint a little bit like that and I was happy with it. Then I went down the Golden Demon route quite extensively. So I changed to this has to be as smooth and neat as possible. And then I fell out of love with doing the Golden Demon thing. So now it's just for the sake of me wanting to do it. I really enjoy the physical process of applying paint that way, of it being looser and rougher. And instead of doing the edge highlights like one color, slightly thin, another color, really thin, another color, now just like roughly blocking in and then going around the edge and stuff like that, I think for me is the big thing, because I really enjoy the process and I enjoy how it looks. I used to really enjoy how the really, really neat stuff looked. I really enjoy how it looks, but I hated doing it because it was so difficult. It was either perfect or it was wrong and you had to do it again.
Two bind on or off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whereas with this, I really enjoy that sometimes it works one way and sometimes it's not as neat as it was the last time, but I think they all still kind of work and have merit, just being quite rough. But then that just... I think that just goes back to my view of the painting thing, like what you guys were saying about improving. I'm happy to not personally improve in that my physical ability to paint get better. I'm happy with it staying where it is. But for me, the improvement is finishing more pieces, finishing bits for an army, or just progressing as in doing more stuff. Like
you're also improving or progressing because you're branching out stylistically. So you've tried a new style, and you can always go back to your old style super clean. But just exploring or trying anything else or developing something that you like because you've thought of it is also progress. So there's these different types of things, and your technical ability might not be going up like your physical paint applying, but you're saying, I like this style, and choosing a direction to go down, and that's a hobby progression in itself, isn't it?
Yeah. But I only started to really enjoy the hobby more when I decided to not have everything be like, I've got to be better. So like before, when I was doing Golden Demons, everything I paint has to be better than the last one, or what was the point? And putting that to bed and not doing the demon stuff anymore just made me really enjoy it a lot more. And I think not worrying about how I was progressing, it sounds weird, but the less I worried about how much I was progressing, the more I actually progressed.
Well, that's what's there's a phrase for that, isn't it? Oh, keep talking, I'll think of it. Sorry to interrupt.
It's all psychological though, isn't it? And
is it analysis paralysis?
Yeah.
That's the one, right? You overthink it, and before you know it, you've spent half an hour worrying, and you're not even put paint on a model.
You need to do it all in ebbs and flows, though, don't you? Because sometimes you have to have areas where you might be consciously progressing, and then you need to rein it back and just do some army stuff. It's why I started Lumineth, because I was like, I love my single models and putting everything into it. But sometimes when I get home from work and stop working at 9, I maybe just need to put paint on a model, even if it is Rhinox hide on 40 geezers.
I think like the long thing for me is just not trying to push myself to be like, I want to be a better painter than I was yesterday. I want to be an active painter that enjoys what they're doing. If that means that I never get any better for the rest of the time I paint, I'll take it and run with it.
Do some hobby and enjoy it, right?
Just do it and enjoy it. That's the win. It's not getting better or not for me. It's a personal thing.
No, I think it's really interesting, but I also think it's probably. I'm not entirely sure. You might say, that's great advice to give to a new painter. Oh yeah, don't worry about it, just enjoy it. But actually, it's probably a bit disingenuous, isn't it? Because I think you achieved a very high level of painting. Objectively, right? You achieved a very high level of painting. You now have the luxury to decide whether you want to continue. What you have is thousands of hours with the brush in hand. And I think it would probably be very hard for someone to start from the very beginning. And I'm not saying this, of course it wouldn't be hard at all. If you don't really care to the point of, this is literally just colouring in for me, and it's fun, and the fact that this model's got some colour on and it looks, I've put some washes over it and it's fun and I've switched off. Of course, that's brilliant, and that's what a hobby is, and good for you. We're always going to be talking about this from a point of view of somebody who enjoys painting and is a bit nerdy about painting, right? So that they give a fuck about it. They want to know more about it. And I think there's no two ways about it. Is you need that time with the brush.
Oh yeah.
Before you can start. There is merit in improving certain techniques and experiencing different paints and whatnot. You need it. You need to know it. Learning it will make you enjoy painting as a hobby more. But I get what you're saying is it's not you can sort of jump off at any point, right? Once you get to that certain level, you can then jump. You can choose to keep going up and up and up and up and up. And
I mean, that's the thing. Like in 6 months' time, I go right. Fuck it. I want to be as good as I can possibly be at this. So then I might get back into learning and jump back onto it. But you are right. The benefit of doing, like I said, thousands of hours of painting is that I have that luxury. But if you don't have that luxury yet and you want to improve, I think it's about small increments really, and nailing individual. Like if you try and set yourself too many tasks, like I'm going to be a better painter overall, I think it's massive and it's too hard. Like, right, I want to get neater. I want to have neater highlights, or I want to have better color theory. Then that's your,
choose a bit at a time, right?
Yeah, tick that bit off.
Let's jump on then. That sort of segues us into one of the other questions.
What questions?
So this is from Ryan. what are the most important skills to nail as you progress through each level of painting? What I mean, amazing. It's as if you've read these notes, which I know you obviously haven't. So, you know,
I read
because no one bothers reading notes. Any tips for mastering these particular skills other than practice? So, spoiler, Ryan, no, you just need to practice. But he sort of asked, this is what he feels is beginner, right? Consistent airbrushing, good hairy brush control, correct placement of light. Intermediate, more with your blending, understanding fine details and difference of textures, and then perhaps using different types of paint. And then he sort of said expert, advanced color theory, freehand, that type of thing.
I'd reverse some of those.
I was going to say there's a lot of options there. Let's have one thing that you would consider an essential starting out skill for enjoying painting more.
Like dilution, maybe?
Right.
I was just you literally beat me by 2 seconds. I was going to say paint application. So the correct application of the correct diluted paint.
Well, that's a different point. I'm diluting, you're applying. So that's 2 fantastic points, Richard.
What about you, Matt?
We're great.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually going to say dilution because I know a lot of beginners.
Well, you can't. Two other people.
Too slow.
No, too slow. I'm too tired. Definitely sort of brush control then, because it's like holding a pencil, but it's not. It is a very different fine motor controls. You need to get used to that to really get into your painting before you can really move on. You need to understand how that brush reacts in your hand.
That's a really good one, yeah. Because if you're adamant that you want to be really neat, you're never even going to get to that point if you can't control the brush, because you'll be painting really neatly and then just do that, and then you're back at square one. So that's a really good point.
This all comes under Rich had the best summary, because I think applying the paint is so important, and under that is all these things, and it sounds so basic, but whenever we do classes and people talk about all the top painters, and you're like, well, I've got the recipe, but I couldn't do it, and it's like, but how is he applying the paint? How good are you at diluting, being neat, brush strokes, blending? So I would say maybe you could say technical stuff first. And I'm a big advocate of the technical stuff doesn't matter, be a bit free and have some fun. But I think if you're in the beginner level, get a good degree of some technical stuff, and then you can choose the path you want to go down for your sort of hobby happiness or whatever.
I think also, because on that, and this might be a bit controversial, when you see someone who's a very skilled painter do something a bit freer and rougher, you can kind of tell when it's someone who's done that as opposed to somebody that's just got the paint who isn't very experienced and just sort of chucked it on. Yeah. The way I think that they've established or got the result they've got is just the base understanding of how that paint moves, how it dries, how it looks when you apply it, what paints to use, what not, because of how thick they are, how they mix. All this stuff, unfortunately, the only way to learn all that is to spend a shitload of time with them and applying them. But I think... I think just there is no quick way around it, but I think learning how the paints move, literally just it doesn't have to be on a model, just on paper. That's okay, though,
isn't it? I think it's okay to say that this isn't going to be a quick thing. So I think because obviously, yes, I agree with you three. It's 100%. It's learning to dilute paint and apply it, right? But I suppose what I would say is perhaps try to learn to really love that. To try to take a lot of satisfaction from a smooth base coat.
Agreed.
There's. I never forget. A few years ago, we'd been teaching airbrushing classes for all over the world. Lots of people. They were at a really decent level of airbrush control and painting these people. And someone was taping off this Space Marine tabard to airbrush it, and we were like, "What on earth are you doing? Just paint it." And they're like, "Oh, I can't. I can't get a smooth thing with my paintbrush." And that was a real light bulb moment of, we have neglected this. We want everyone to be at least the same, I say base level, but I don't mean that disrespectfully. You want everyone to have that foundational level of the various, airbrushing, hairy brushing, dry brushing, whatever, sponging, get those little bricks in place. And then you can, if you want to, then you can go off. But if you can get a smooth base coat down with a hairy brush, a smooth base coat down with an airbrush, if you can dry brush without the model looking too chalky, you'll paint some great looking models, right? You'll have a fun time. It's will they win competitions? No, absolutely not. But if you learn to enjoy that process and actually, see it through to the end of a miniature, you might be surprised at quite how good they look. And I guarantee they'll look as good as models painted significantly better than them once you're in the club under the shit lights, few jars.
Yeah, lights don't matter under those club lights.
Is it right?
It is quite hard. It's hard though, because I don't want to come across as like one of those condescending people who's like, how do I improve it? Just got to put in thousands and thousands of hours, mate. That's all you can do.
No, but it should be directional, should you?
True.
Yeah, but it's it's a bit glib to say that, isn't it? You need to put the hours in with a purpose, with a direction. Getting back to what we do as Cult of Painter classes is to, a lot of the time, is to ensure that people have the opportunity to come and understand how best to use that time towards developing those skills. And then once they've developed those skills, right, come and look how this person paints or this person paints, come and understand this theory, and that sort of thing. I always sort of feel that it largely comes down to, as you guys have said there, learning how to apply paint. And then really it's color theory and understanding how light behaves on different surfaces.
I'll definitely put the light, because I think Ryan put light in the beginner, which I definitely think is a cool thing for beginners.
Yeah, it did, yeah.
But I would definitely say you're getting the paint on, and then the intermediate is, well, maybe now you try the airbrush, and maybe we'll talk about light. And then expert is more light, more complicated stuff, right? So I think, that's kind of maybe where I would put it. Yeah. But it's tough.
Yeah, it is tough, and I think perhaps that's why, whether it's an answer perhaps some people don't want to hear, but there's a lot of talk of motivation and feeling like it, and it is an art. It's an artistic hobby, and you need to have the muse upon you and all the rest of it. But sometimes you just got to be disciplined and understand and be confident that,
yes, Henry,
you will. I know it's not exciting, right? But it's there's a reason for it. Like you can objectively say to someone, I guarantee you, if you spend this time working on this technique, on this thing, 100% you're going to enjoy your painting more when you finish that. But it's I suppose it's that whole thing, isn't it? Is people always go, oh, your hobby should be relaxing and enjoyable and stuff. And I feel like, my two hobbies, this and playing different instruments, a huge amount of the time is incredibly frustrating. It's
then you push through for the satisfaction, right?
Yeah. But it's not permanently relaxing. It's the hobby is challenging, and perhaps that's one of the reasons it appeals to people. Is because it isn't simply once I've done this 10 times, I'll be great at it. Well, it's not. It's a bit more nuanced as that. But no, I don't want to get preachy about it. And I know discipline is boring and all the rest of it. But I think I feel like if someone got into painting, it's worth saying that to them. It's worth
it's worth being honest with them, because if you look at if you look at the sort of top 15, 20 objectively best painters in the world, it's not as if they all started 2 weeks ago, is it?
Right.
I always say it takes ages, but it's awesome.
Right.
It's cool.
But I guess it always goes right back to what you said earlier, Andy, about expectations as well. I've got 2 hours a week to paint. Okay, great. What can we do with that? You're not going to win the Slayer sword, but that's 100%. Okay. What can you do with it? Those 2 hours a week.
A Stormcast every week.
That's it. Right. If it's the newer ones, winner.
Bring it.
Right. There's a couple more questions we'll work through. Sam asked, and I think we've probably sort of covered this, but maybe there's worth a little bit more chat. Sam's asked, what are some straightforward tips or instructions to follow to get started painting with the brush from the ground up? So I think, we've sort of said there, dilution, creating a smooth base coat. I also think paint brand is quite important with this. That there are we're very fortunate, right? And there's a lot of paint brands around now. There's fairly good options for most things now, depending on where you live in the world. Depends on how easy it is to get hold of quite a lot of it. But I think it's undeniable that some of those brands, and within those brands, some of those paints are a lot more user friendly than others. And if you just sort of flicked on, you've got into painting and you've gone on Instagram and seen who's got loads of followers or all the rest of it, and you see these artists, these miniatures artists using these obscure brands of paint and raving about them, you're going to do what I did when I first got into painting. And I turned on YouTube, and this American guy was using a Badger airbrush, and he was doing this, and they're all right. Well, okay, I'll buy a Badger airbrush, and I'll do this, because what else do you do, right? It was a terrible decision, but it's partly because at the time I had to get it from an automotive body parts place in the UK, because it's the only place that sold them. But
home turf.
It's that those people, and the reason it was a bad decision because it wasn't a terribly user-friendly brush that I bought. It was designed for a more high-end artist, and it's the same with paints, I think. So I think that would be my tip, perhaps, if you're getting started with painting, is to use some more user-friendly brands of paint.
I think actually maybe just try them all.
Reckon.
My friend just got back into painting literally 3 weeks ago, and he said, "What paint should I buy?" I said, "Don't buy any." And I did him a box. And I said, "This is some of every brand."
Right.
And he comes back to me with no influence, and he's like, "I like these Valleos. They're like they go on pretty easy." And I'm like,
"Yeah,
buy more."
Yeah.
So, I think, we all start with, or most people start with GW paints, and GW paints are awesome. They do some of the best paints, but definitely pick up a few and see what you like. Look at some colours, grab a few, and you'll find the brands that you get on with, I think. So mix it up. Same with the miniatures, same with the products. Try a load of stuff, and you'll find something you like more, I think. So that's the cool thing.
But if, rather than fence it, and if you had to say to someone, this is the brush you're going to grab, this is 5 paints you're going to grab. I know this is proper on the spot stuff, but I'd be pointing them towards probably Vallejo or GW, and that's not just because I think they're quite user friendly. They're also going to be the easiest for them to get, right? Depending on where they are, sort of in the world and stuff. And again, just get them a decent sort of size 1 brush from one that's easy to go and get.
What can you get hold of? That's what it's about, isn't it? Because
I think it's quite important, right? I think sometimes people don't want to get on with it until they've got all of the gear, right? All of the correct stuff and all of that. Whereas actually, as going back to what we said a few minutes ago, getting a few basic colours and just base coating a few miniatures, whose only job in life is to get base coated, right? It's not to be a work of art. You'll be grand. You'll soon know whether you enjoy painting or not.
Agree. Yeah.
Because every single paint job you do is going to have a base coat on it.
Or is it?
Well, this. Yeah. There's a good clickbaity.
Do we even need base
YouTube? Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. There you go. 1 million views.
Take that screenshot, Matt, and we'll bring up the views.
Sorry, got a bit ranty with that. What about you, Rich? What do you think?
I agree with what you said about certain paints. Like, it's really hard because telling someone to do what I would suggest, they wouldn't do it because it's quite boring. But like,
get
a really good, like you said, a good quality brush that you can get multiples of if you need to. And one that's a good size that you can stick to for all. I get a white paint, a black paint, and 3 greys.
Oh,
and I would
steady on now.
And I would just fuck around with those colours and just see what they did, mix them together. Try putting on some nice, clean base coats. Try blending. Try edge highlighting. But I would just do it within those colours because it's just easier, I think.
Yeah.
But like I said, quite boring. because it's not exciting and cool. It's monochrome and a bit shit. But
get magenta fluoro.
Yeah. Try and put a smooth base coat on with magenta fluoro and see how long that takes. Yeah,
but there's also a level of bitterness of us that grew up with paints such as Dark Angel's Green. You know, Fantastic Bad Moon Yellow.
Bad Yellow.
Yeah,
we used to call it.
Try. Get a really nice set of yellows and oranges and start base coating. But no, seriously though, good quality. You don't need to get everything. I think that's a trap that people fall into. Is I need this whole range. I need these 10 brushes. There's an incredible wet palette. These fantastic lights. You need the fucking whole kit and caboodle. True. I think you just minimize it. A few paints. They need to be greys, but paints that you like, a certain couple of colors that you like, with paints that you can readily get hold of, and just practice with that and see how you get on.
And don't buy too many models.
Yeah, I mean that's the hard bit, isn't it?
Whatever.
It's very. I can't say don't buy too many models to anyone on planet Earth, so I'm not going to say that. But I think also just be realistic with your expectation, I guess, of what you can achieve depending on how much time you've got to do it. But practical tips, just practice with a few simple bits.
I know, and it is a theme, and I think I sort of suspected this would be the answer before I sort of suggested this sort of episode, but I think it's all well and good telling someone to just practice, but I'm hoping what we're at least covering in certain elements is what to go and practice.
Yeah.
Or with what to go and practice, what to practice on. What is the goal that you're practicing to get towards?
That's the most important thing.
Yeah. What identify
side.
Go on.
Sorry, mate. I was going to let Henry hit the nail on the head, but I think you have to decide what kind of hobbyist I'm going to be. And our answers tonight, like Matt's answer was different to Rich's to mine, but be really true to what do you want to do, and don't think you have to I have to paint busts. If you want to do Marines forever, that is awesome. Decide what do you like the best from the hobby, and if there's someone that does the hobby you like the most, like your biggest influence, then maybe think about working out how they do stuff or whatever. But just work on what you like best, not what you think you should or whatever. I think.
Yeah, definitely. That's excellent advice. Well, let's close it out then with one. I think a great question by Jim. Hi guys, what's caused the biggest shift in your thinking about painting? And similarly, has there been anything that's caused a big leap in your painting technique? So I guess that's two questions, kind of. One more that's caused a big change in your technique, and one that's thinking about painting. What do you lads have a think on this one? I'll jump in with the first on this. So for me, the way I feel very fortunate about the way I got back into the hobby with hindsight, in that I jumped on YouTube. There weren't many hobby YouTube videos at the time, but there was a handful I found which were to do with a couple of different people, but to do with painting Nurgle models and a big Titan. And I just basically bought everything that they had in those videos and just copied what they did. But what it meant was that basically the first model I painted to completion when I got back in was a Chaos Warhound Titan. But I was able to, on that model, I learned how to airbrush. I learned about oils. I learned about enamels. I all of a sudden, from the young, first time round hobbyist who was at the time as well, GW was all there was. It wasn't like we had all these options, but that was it. To getting back in, and straight away from getting back in, not having any preconceived notions of different techniques, being very, very open to these new techniques, just because I assumed that's what miniatures painting was now. So it happened very, very early on for me. It was a wet palette from the first day, from day one. It was, and it's only as we've met more people and helped more people sort of enjoy their painting that I'm understanding quite how fortunate that probably was, being exposed to those different things. So with regards to my biggest shift about thinking about painting, that I think was a bit what Andy was said a minute ago, is beginning to understand what it is that I enjoy about it. And actually, for me, it is the atmosphere of the piece over everything else. You know, all I want to do is I see these amazing pieces of artwork by fantasy and sci-fi artists, and I read all these novels and stuff to do with fantasy and stuff. I have all these great ideas in my head, and I can't replicate that in 2D artwork. I've never tried, to be honest, more bar a sketch that's awful. But what I'm now focused on is always with my projects is working towards trying to achieve that feel that I get from that artwork or that novel or that, which is a bit nebulous, but that took a lot of pressure off me in the sense of, you know, I've got to learn this technique or I've got to learn that. What it meant was I had need to go out and learn all of it to a certain degree, you know, but not worry about becoming super proficient in them unless they work towards that goal, if that makes sense. So I think NMM is a good one, Rich. Like, I don't enjoy NMM to look at on the whole. Well, I don't enjoy. I prefer TMM to look at. But the more and more I look at NMM as a technique, the more I understand the value in understanding it, because actually it teaches me a whole lot more than just how to paint non-metallic metal, or the people that teach it well. You know, you end up learning an awful lot more about painting than just how to paint NMM gold or how to paint NMM silver or whatever. So yeah, I think those were my answers to that. Sorry if that was a bit flowery.
I enjoyed it.
Sorry about. What about you guys, Andy? Where are you at with it? Your biggest shift in your thinking and the biggest leap in your technique.
Oh, thanks for reminding me of the question, because I had forgotten. But I was thinking about kind of going what you were saying and what I said earlier. But I think when I decided what I liked the most was the most important, because there's all different styles and different painters you like. But I think once you really discover what you want to work towards, because I think that myself and you, Henry, both have a thing that we really like and they're different, and we only need to work towards those. So actually you need to do fewer things, right? So you know the style you want to go for, and I think when I discovered the style I wanted to go for, it allowed me to just work on that, and then you're kind of developing faster. And then was the other half of the question, which technique?
Yeah, was there a particular project perhaps you did, or a class you went on, or something like that, which you noticed a real leap in your painting technique after that occurred?
Yeah, I think when I did something that was blended well, it was, you know, people use the unlock, but it really was, because like I could do stuff with a gradient, but it wasn't blended. And I can remember the first couple models where I was like, that is pretty damn smooth. And it was glazing, actually, because I actually look at tutorials now and they talk about glazing completely differently to what I think it is. And I think people think it's doing 100 layers as like your base coat, but that's not what glazing is to me. Like, glazing is an adjuster. It's a tweak. It's something to tweak. And I think like I could do okay gradients, but they weren't perfect. But once I learned that I could adjust with a glaze, my painting completely changed instantaneously. I think the first thing I was really happy with was my Barbarian, the topless one from Black Sun, because that was probably the first time I did skin that had a really smooth gradient. And actually, you know, I've learnt so much since then. It seems I can see all the kind of errors in it. But I was surprised that I had done it, because I hadn't done anything that smooth, I don't think, before. It always had steps in it. I could see the gradients. And I was like, I can't really see the steps. And I think, yeah, that was understanding what glazing technique was. And I'd never seen a tutorial that had really taught what glazing was properly, I don't think. And so it's really a nice experience for me to show people glazing, because people go, oh, it's just that, not this or this and stuff like that. So there you go.
Nice. Very nice. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, so like the biggest shift in my thinking about painting is getting more of like a mental one. It's more just knowing that I've done the best that I can do currently, and knowing that I haven't half-assed it or like fudged it, but tried the best that I know that I can do and actually done it. Yeah. But technique, nice. I'm not so I'm not so sure on that one. I don't think there's any techniques that I've had a big leap in. I've kind of plateaued a little bit, if that makes sense. Like I haven't really pushed myself. Like the non-metallics, I've kind of stopped dead on that. I cannot get my head around it. My head just doesn't want to compute it. So yeah, I haven't really had a big leap in any painting techniques for a while now.
Oh well, that's going to be our challenge then, to help you figure out. Just bombard you with something. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Who knows when we're actually allowed to see people again in real life? Maybe you'll get to a show or a class or read something.
We'll film on YouTube. Can we get Matt to improve his NMM in one day?
We'll do like a Rocky montage.
Just
have Rich like throwing water in your face,
spray bottle.
What about you, Rich?
So my two. So specific improvement. It wasn't a technique. I think I find it really difficult to think of one specific one where I went eureka. But for me, there was
Tamiya red.
Yeah, Tamiya clear red. Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Ordered a pot today, mate. It's always a good day.
Always a good day. But no, there was probably a 2-year period where I entered pretty much every golden demon there was religiously. It's all I thought about. It was the goal, the aim. That's all I wanted to do, was to win golden demons. And that 2-year period, I went from being not very good to quite respectably. I thought I got a lot better, and just that
you can toot it, mate. You've won by the end of that. You'd won multiple golden demons. Yeah.
So I got a lot better, but it was shockingly visible when you compared like my last entry to what was my first entry into the golden demon period, as we'll call it, was insane. Like
golden
the quality.
Era, mate.
The golden era, God, it was good. But it's because the reason being, me and Andy specifically that's all we did. It's all we talked about. It's all we wanted to paint, and we surrounded ourselves with a group of people who were all of a similar mind. So the everything I did painting wise was for it. So every photo I took, I would send to multiple people for critiques. Every show that I went to, I would ask people what they thought or what I could do better. I would get feedback from the heavy metal guys. It became the sole purpose for the painting. That's what I wanted to do. And that's all my biggest increase in ability by a mile. If I hadn't have done that, no way would I have got better. Not a chance. But then also the biggest shift in my mindset towards painting was when I decided to stop doing golden demons. And I'm not saying I've stopped as in I'm never going to do them ever again, but I specifically remember a car journey home where I said, I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. Because I got to the point where I realized, other than the benefit of getting better, which I didn't really see at the time as the coolest part of it, I was doing it because I liked winning. And I was unashamedly, I wanted to win golden demons because I liked winning the demons. It made me feel good. But it's a bit of a fool's game because it takes 20 minutes to win a golden demon, but it takes you 6 months of time on your own doing the thing that's going to get you the actual demon itself. And I found I was enjoying that part of it a hell of a lot less than the actual winning aspect of it.
Didn't enjoy the journey.
I didn't enjoy the journey. I enjoyed winning because winning's cool. but I didn't enjoy spending 6 months on a model. There was so many things I wanted to do, and I really wanted to get into gaming. And I did this stupid thing where I convinced myself that my next project was going to be a joint. I'll enter Golden Demon with it and I'll game with it. And it's a stupid idea. It never works. Don't do it.
It's a fool's game, Richard.
Love it.
It's a fool's game.
Before you top yourself, Rich, don't go down. Yeah. You did a great job, bud. Nice one. It's no, I think that's been a brilliant. I've really enjoyed that chat. So I hope you guys have as well, and I hope you guys have that are listening along and listening back to it. I'm sure it's some of those things we'll talk about in the future multiple times. Perhaps we'll dedicate a bit more time to individual elements of them. But let's close out the show like we normally do, which is taking a look at a handful of the hashtag Paint Cultists pieces from Instagram. When we started the show, we wanted a hashtag for everyone who watches to use when they've finished a piece that they're really proud of and they want to share, and that's hashtag Paint Cultist. You can use it on any social medias, but Instagram's the one everyone does it on. It's well worth a follow. There's a wonderful breadth of work on there, lots of different levels of experience of painters, and lots of different types of miniatures on there from different brands and different styles. And what I do every couple of weeks is go through, spend a day just looking back through the 2 weeks worth, and I just pick out those that have really jumped out to me, not always because of the technical skill, but because I just think they've caught my eye. And we'll have a look through them now, and I'll show them off to the guys. So what's up first, Matt? This one's for you, Andy. And this person, this Hobby Crusader, I think name checked you as your Lumineth being a big influence. It's really nice to see. I think quite a few people have really enjoyed your Lumineth sort of coverage. I found it quite what's the word? Not addictive, but it's got them going on it.
But I'm not going to finish mine.
But this is a big model, man. Like, speaking of intimidating centerpieces, doesn't get much more than this. Just ludicrous model, really. The more I look at it.
In a good way.
Can you imagine, even 2 years ago, just very, very cool. But lots of lovely colours in there, particularly like the little flowers on the base. I know he did name check that as well in the description on his Instagram post. But yeah, lovely colours, lovely execution. And I've not seen it from this angle. It's
show that great model. It's a bloody good model.
He's a big lad, isn't he?
Underrated.
But yeah, nice one. What's up next, Matt? Oh, now this one's if the last one sort of gets Andy moist, this is right up my street. Partly because I'm painting some Nurgle Slaves to Darkness at the moment, but trying not necessarily to paint them in a traditional Nurgle way. Sort of having a play around with using normal flesh tones. So I've got some Plague Bearers where I'm giving them sort of a quote unquote normal Caucasian sort of pink skin, and I think it looks really cool. And I just really liked this. This guy looks like a big, brutey Norseman, right? That happened to have succumbed to Grandad. But just really, really liked it. And again, going back to what I was saying about the vibe or the atmosphere of a miniature is what I really get off on. I just really like this. Immediately makes me think of an Adrian Smith bit of artwork,
Very cool.
So yeah, and hell of a kit. It's about what 8 years old now, 7-8 years old. That Blight King kit.
Still good.
It's a damn good kit.
Very good.
I know.
Very good kit. What's up next, Matt? Oh, I'm in love. This is it. This is when I was like, oh fuck it, I'll just sell everything and just paint little critters. I need to paint something like this soon, and just for no other reason than just pure joy of painting it. Is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
Kickstart from Cult of Paint.
I don't know what it is, man. It's just cute.
So innocent.
It's cute. It's colourful. It's a critter. It's a critter with a critter, which I think is perhaps what I like even more. But yeah, I have no idea where the mini's from. Not a sausage, but It's just lovely. Makes me smile. I need something like that sat on my desk. Also, really like what he's done with the eyes as well. They've done with the eyes. It's a nice little reflection in there. But yeah, I know critters are not for everybody, but anthropomorphize me up. I'll have a bit of that. What's up next, Matt?
Yes.
Cool.
Cool. So we've had a model on from Unexplained Miniatures before. This is one of the new, what are they called? Wardroon, something like that. This is Conquest, the last argument of kings. It was the few shows ago we had the weird like sort of alien tyrannidy type looking model that I said was from this fantasy game. Well, this is their take on orcs. Really feral, but very, very cool, like they're riding dinosaurs and things like this. And this is one of the character models from that. It's a resin model. Really tempted actually to have a go on one of these models from Parabellum War Games is the company. But they've got a pretty nice looking range out now. There's 4 or 5 different races. The game appears to be going from strength to strength given everything that's going on. And just I know this account paints a lot of the Conquest minis, so it's well worth following if you want to see what else is available. But it's a very cool pose too, right?
It reminds me of Lionel from Zelda when he gets his big bow out and you go, ah! Love it.
No idea, mate, but I'm sure it's cool.
It looks like that. It's got a massive bow and red hair, and it's well scary.
Nice.
Shoots you, you die. This what this guy's gonna do.
And also, this guy's like, I don't want none of your tactical rock bullshit. Like, give me a T-Rex head.
Dinosaur, yeah. Stand on your T-Rex.
So metal. Orcs riding dinosaurs.
Yeah, it is, right. Oh, yeah, they're nice. They're
so
slightly
metal.
bigger scale as well than a standard sort of GW figure. Yeah, it's definitely worth keeping an eye on. I think that company. They've got some good stuff going on. We've got a few more, haven't we, Matt?
Yep.
Wow.
So not only is this a lovely paint job, I wanted to bring this one up because it's when we did the last Q&A, somebody was asking about where can I get miniatures that aren't warfare related and all the rest of it. And this is the cozy bust that Andy mentioned. So it was nice to see this one pop up.
Nice one.
Belting paint job as well, right?
Yeah, the face is wicked.
That hair's great.
Yeah. It's all a win, isn't it? Face tick, hair tick, jumper, awesome.
The jumper looks soft.
Mm.
I mean, like it really does look like that slightly, you've washed it a few times, cashmere sweater. It's
really great to model to paint, isn't it? It's a girl holding a cup of coffee. You can really interpret it how you want. I think that's really cool. We'll bring that one up for our is miniature art thing.
Definitely. So yeah, absolute cracker that. A couple more, Matt, I think. Oh, so this one's made me chuckle as well, right? So I wondered about putting on for meme of the week.
Yes.
Again, I enjoy this account's paint jobs, I really do. But I also I chuckle out of this one. So I always remember we had this painting, obviously not the painting, but we had a copy of this painting always in the house I grew up in. So I've always been in the back of my mind. And then obviously this is one of the new zombies from the Cursed City kit. But yeah, did tickle me that one.
Has that model actually got that thing on its head, or is that person?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
If that's true, that is incredible.
Because a lot of the miniatures from that Cursed City box seem to have a lot of the. Now, obviously, I don't want to get this horribly wrong, but do you remember like Kislev, right, from the old world? They seem to have a lot more of that vibe to them.
Yeah, true.
And wherever that was meant to represent from our real world history, feels like they've got a bit more there. But yeah, also great bit of meme. Love it.
Everyone loves a good meme.
What's up next, Matt? So this one, other than just being really, really cool and weird, I want to bring up because I'm fairly sure this is from one of those, and that the account name checks it again in their description. But I'm fairly sure this is from one of those Patreons where you get a bunch of STLs every month. And I think that's definitely worth a chat in a show in the future because there's some pretty remarkable sculptors out there now working on these Patreons, and perhaps we don't highlight it as much as we should be. Yeah, there seems to be a real jump in the last sort of 12 months with the quality of it, and it's just super weird. I like that kind of thing.
It's proper weird.
Yeah.
Mushroom Man.
This is what you'll look like in about 20 years, Rich, in your garden.
It's pretty similar, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, the nose is about right.
It's that angry face.
What are you talking about, mate?
You're doing it now.
It's a fun paint job as well. We got one more, Matt, or is that the lot?
I think one more.
Oh, this one's for you,
Space Marines.
Yeah, bit of Space Marines. Lovely little conversion. Gabriel Seth, a great character from the background. All Primaris up. Lots
Perfectly
of
level-headed individual.
Yeah.
That is a very good conversion.
It's a really
that's a really
good work.
So yeah, I think that's it. Is it, Matt? Or am I wrong? No, I'm wrong as usual.
Oh wow,
this one's cool. I've no idea. Maybe it's a 3D sculpt. I'm not sure.
I think I've seen it before, so I think it is an STL.
Right.
Yeah, you can download
but
it.
Just cool to see a bust, but something very different as the subject matter, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
Nids are cool, man. Like, Nids could be great.
But this is a great way of I don't want to paint a Nid army or even a Nid model. What's the point of having one Tyranid model? But actually, doing something like this would be a really fun project, right?
Very cool.
And a cool paint style as well. I liked it.
Good selection, Stilo. Good work.
Yeah. Well, it gets easier and more difficult, as it were, every time. There's a lot on there now, so you can go and enjoy that hashtag Paint Cultist. So that's it. End of another show. If you guys want to get in touch with us at all, we're on all the usual social media platforms, websites, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I don't know, all the rest of it. We're not hard to get hold of. Andy, Matt, Rich, thank you very much. I really, really enjoyed tonight's show. So I hope the guys did that were listening. And we're getting ready for show 10 now.
Woo!
We'll figure out a topic for that one. Thanks a lot to the chat as usual, keeping us honest. Still talking about Rich's hammer.
It's big, people.
It's been big, yeah. People are keen. People want to see that Titan I painted. I'm afraid I sold it a few years ago to a friend of ours, Sean, who will undoubtedly have sold it on for far more than I sold it to him. Which tends to be Sean's modus operandi. But he's a good lad. So we're not worried. We're not worried about that. And thanks very much to those of you watching the show back when we release it on General View on YouTube at the weekend. If you've enjoyed it, hit that like button. Let us know what you'd like to hear from us in the future, and tell your friends about it. It's great to see sort of thousands and thousands of watches or listens or views or whatever you want to call it for the shows. There's clearly we're doing something vaguely right, and we want to keep doing it. So let us know about some topics you'd like us to discuss, and we'll be sure to get to them. So until 2 weeks' time, we'll see you soon.
Bye.